Fred Hahn. Fred, is the author, the instructor, and the founder, of the slow burn exercise training studio. He wrote a book about it. We have the books available, so at the end, of our event, he's going to be doing the book signing as well. So let's welcome him, and he's going to talk to us about what we can do in order to stay healthy and energetic.
Thank you. You want to make sure I stand in front of the orange box?
That's right. Not to the right, not to the left.
That's right. So, well, thanks everybody for coming. My name is Fred Hahn, and I own Slow Burn Fitness Studios. I have one in Manhattan and one in Montclair, New Jersey. And what we do basically on a daily basis, we strength train good people up. Let me ask you, how many people here have ever or currently lift weights or do resistance training or strength training? So not many people. How many people here regularly exercise or do something that they do for exercise? Okay. So as you can see from the first slide, what I'm here to try to teach you about and hopefully convince you is that weightlifting or strength training or resistance training is actually the single best form of exercise that you can do. And not that you shouldn't be physically active, you should, but if you currently aren't doing some form of strength training or resistance training, I'm going to see if I can teach you and urge you to somehow incorporate that into your life. And I did want to say that what Tina was saying about nutrition is extraordinarily important. And the reason is this. You can exercise till the cows come home. You can. And if you are not eating healthfully, your exercise will do you almost no good. So everything that Tina was saying is we teach our clients at our facilities that if you're not willing to adopt a more healthful eating program, don't even bother starting your strength training program because you're going to wind up breaking muscle tissue down and it's just going to stay there. So unless you're eating healthfully, you're not going to be able to reap the benefits of any form of exercise. Now, I don't know how many people know, but I think most people think that lifting weights is just good for getting bigger biceps or getting bigger quads. But the truth of the matter is that if lifting weights properly produces, and this is just a few of the many benefits that are available to you if you adopt a sound strength training program. So the first one, balance. A lot of seniors often find that as they get older, they lose their balance when they're walking or if they're on, well, everybody loses their balance on ice, but seniors have a lot of problems with their balance, and that often leads to a fall, which leads to a fractured hip, and then it's just kind of like a downhill battle after that. It's not that a senior is losing balance, it's that they're losing strength. And because they're losing strength, they have a hard time keeping their balance. So by improving your muscular strength, you improve your ability to use your muscles, and if you slip, your ability to catch yourself. So there's no such thing as balance, it's really just a matter of whether you're weaker or whether you're stronger. Stronger bones, I think it's very obvious, from a bone mineral density, from osteopenia or osteoporosis. A lot of doctors will say, in order to improve bone density, you need to do weight-bearing exercises. Well, weight-bearing exercises is not going to do it. Right now, I'm weight-bearing. But it's not going to do anything to stimulate an increase in bone mineral density. What you need to do is some form of weight training so that you increase the amount of pressure on the bones so that those bones, just like your muscles, will begin to increase in density and in strength. So it's a very important part of, especially if you're prone to osteoporosis or osteopenia, which again, the strength training is going to do you no good unless you're eating healthfully. But if you are eating healthfully, resistance training or strength training is what's going to really help increase bone mineral density. Coordination is the same as balance. If you're stronger, you'll be more coordinated. And flexibility is another very interesting thing. A lot of people think you need to stretch in order to increase your muscular flexibility. But muscular flexibility is a huge misnomer. Joints flex, muscles contract and uncontract. There's no such thing as muscular flexibility. When you make your muscles stronger, you're able to move your joints throughout a range of motion more powerfully. So if you look at who are the most, like who can tell me who the most flexible athletes are in the Olympics? Gymnasts. They are also among the most muscular. Who's the second most flexible athletes in the Olympics? And in my book, I talk about the research we did on this. Not I didn't do the research, but the research that has been done on it, and I talk about it in the book. Who would you say is the second most flexible of all of the Olympic athletes?
Weight training.
Weight trainers. So, by becoming stronger, you're able to become more flexible at the same time. A healthy heart, I'll explain this in a minute. By improving your muscular strength, you decrease the effort that your heart has to accomplish when you're performing any other form of exercise. So when you're doing aerobic exercise and things of that nature, you're not actually making your heart stronger. You're actually giving benefit to your muscles. And that's really where the cardiovascular benefits come from. Posture, again, like balance, the stronger you are, the better you are able to stand up tall. So all of the muscles, if you think of your skeleton, if you look at like a suspension bridge, like the George Washington Bridge, if the cables on that suspension bridge got all weak, the bridge itself would begin to collapse. But if you could actually take those cables off and shore them up, the bridge becomes stronger. So our muscle fibers are like cables, and the stronger your muscle fibers are, the better your posture will be. So from looking slimmer and muscle mass and having less fat, if you increase the amount of muscle on your body, you will increase your metabolic rate, the rate at which you burn calories at any given time, even when you're sleeping. It's not a huge benefit, but it is, to a degree, a small benefit, but if it's a benefit nonetheless. Obviously, lowering your risk of injury, like we were talking about falling, the stronger you are. When you fall, if you fall, then the better chance you have of not actually injuring yourself or injuring yourself as badly. Metabolic rate is what we talked about, increasing muscle mass, and that's an increase in the actual amount of energy or calories that you burn at rest doing absolutely nothing. From a diabetes standpoint, if you have more muscle tissue, you actually have more blood volume. And then if you are going to, hopefully not, indulge in too much sugar, your body's ability to clear that sugar becomes superior. So it has a very strong benefit on diabetes risk as well. And you sleep better. And actually the reasons for that are varied, and I don't have enough time to go into that, but a lot of my clients, I don't know if you've experienced that, Dr. Gandhi, but a lot of our clients say that as they get stronger and as they feel better and as they become healthier, they just sleep better, and then it just snowballs. It's a positive snowball effect. Now here's the thing. Physical activity in and of itself is very helpful. It's very, especially emotionally and psychologically, it's very helpful. But from a physiological standpoint, it's not all that beneficial. So I'll have a lot of new clients that come in and say, oh, Fred, I don't need your slow weight stuff. I play tennis 3 times a week. But playing tennis 3 times a week, though it gives you some degree of benefit, it doesn't give you anywhere near the amount of benefits that I showed you in this slide before. So what you want to do is strength train properly so that you can play tennis better. You want to strength train properly so you can ride your bike better. Anything that you enjoy doing, if you strength train properly, you will do that better. So, again, while it is good to be physically active, physical activity doesn't replace proper strength training. Now, what happens when you strength train? So here's what happens. You lift weights nice and slowly, and I'll explain what that means in a minute. And as you build muscle tissue, you increase the little fibers inside the larger fibers. So if this large is like a muscle here, inside the fibers, you get more, inside the big fibers, you get little fibers. And that's what increases muscle tone. It gets denser. And that's what increases muscle strength, muscular endurance at the same time. So when you're strength training properly, that's all you're doing. You're just simply increasing these little guys inside the big guy. Now, when you're doing, let's say you decide to do strength training, maybe not with me, but on your own, and in my book I have both a home program and a program that you can take to a YMCA, and I give explanations as to how you can use any of the machines in any gym. You want to make sure that you're training the muscle intensely, meaning that if you can lift a weight once, and you can lift a weight 3 times, if you can do it a 5th time, you want to continue until you reach the point where you are incapable of actually lifting it one more time. And the reason for that is because you have different types of those little fibers. You have what I call the aerobics guys, you have the decathlete guys, and then you have the sprinters. These guys only come into play when you reach that point where your muscles are getting very deeply fatigued. So if you do 1, you do 3, you do 5, and you just stop, and you could do 10. You're really only using these guys, so you're kind of gypping yourself of the benefits that you could have. The caveat is it's uncomfortable, but the benefit of it is certainly worth the brief momentary discomfort that you get when you're doing the exercise. And I know there's probably a lot of questions that you have, and I'll answer them downstairs later if you have. Now, the nice thing about strength training is that it improves your cardio. These little guys are called mitochondria. Mitochondria are all throughout your body, particularly in your muscle cells, and they're like little energy-producing furnaces. The more mitochondria you have, the more energy you produce, and the more endurance you have, the more cardio you have. So when a runner runs, if a person starts a running program and they can't run 3 blocks without getting out of breath, and a month or 2 later they can run a mile, their heart hasn't gotten stronger. Their lungs haven't gotten better. What has happened is they've increased the amount of mitochondria within the muscle cells. And it kind of looks like this. Remember those myofibrils I showed you? So this is like a cutaway of the myofibril. The mitochondria live in the myofibrils. So the more myofibrils you have, the more mitochondria you have, the more aerobic endurance you have, the more cardio you have. So you don't have to do supplemental cardio exercises if you're strength training properly. Ain't that nice? This way you don't hurt your knees, you don't hurt your hips, you don't have to do a lot of these. I mean, if you like to run, fine. The strength training is going to make your running better. And the nice thing about strength training is you only have to do it twice a week. And if you have some questions downstairs about that, I can tell you all about it. And later we'll talk about, downstairs if you want, how we go about it in my book, which is lifting and lowering the weights in a very slow. You ever see people do Tai Chi in the park?
Yes.
Yeah, so we teach people how to lift weights like that. Thank you very much.